हेलो एंड वेलकम यू ऑल टू वाइज आईएएस। हमारा आज का टॉपिक है सोशल एम्पावरमेंट। सो बेसिकली आज के इस लेक्चर में हम सोशल एम्पावरमेंट का पूरा टॉपिक फॉर योर यूपीएससी मींस कवर करेंगे। अभी तक अगर आपने वाइज आईएएस का ऐप डाउनलोड नहीं करा है, अगेन अ जेंटल रिमाइंडर, आई विल रिक्वेस्ट यू ऑल टू प्लीज डाउनलोड द वाइज आईएएस ऐप सो दैट आपको हमारा पूरा कंटेंट इजीली अवेलेबल रहे और नई नोटिफिकेशंस आपको मिलती रहे। दिस इज व्हाट वी प्रोवाइड ऑन द वाइज आईएएस प्लेटफॉर्म। अगेन, yes, now coming to the topic of social empowerment. What basically is social empowerment? क्या ज़रूरत है, क्या कारण है और किसको एम्पावर करना है? बेसिकली हमारा इंडियन सोसाइटी जो है, हमारी इंडियन सोसाइटी में लोगों के बीच में गैप है। कुछ लोग डार्कर साइड में रह रहे हैं और कुछ लाइटर साइड में। कुछ के जीवन में उजाला है और कुछ के जीवन में अंधेरा है। हालांकि दोनों ही इंसान हैं, पर कुछ लोगों के साथ जातियां हो रही हैं और कुछ लोग वो जातियां कर रहे हैं। तो बेसिकली देयर शुड बी इक्वलिटी, और जो लोग जातियां सह रहे हैं उनको एम्पावर करने की ज़रूरत है। इन ब्रीफ, सोशल एम्पावरमेंट का यही मतलब, यानी कि सोशल एम्पावरमेंट का मतलब सारे के सारे सोसाइटी के वर्गों को इक्वल कंट्रोल देना उनकी ज़िंदगी के ऊपर, और जो अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं, उनके लिए उनको इम्पॉर्टेंट डिसीजन मेकिंग पावर, उनको ये डिसीजन मेकिंग पावर देनी और डिसीजन मेकिंग पावर की ही उनको अपॉर्चुनिटी देनी। तो इस तरीके से एक राष्ट्र तभी तरक्की कर सकता है जब वहां पे लोगों की सोशल एम्पावरमेंट। अब सोशल एम्पावरमेंट इज अंडरस्टूड एज द प्रोसेस of developing a sense of autonomy. It means to process the sense of autonomy and self confidence and acting individually and collectively to change the social relationships and the institutions, and it discourses discourses which the people sometimes exclude poor people or keep them out of the sphere. So the perception of being empowered, it varies across time. It differs across time. It differs across, you can see, the culture. It differs across, you can see, the domains of a person's life. It differs from place to place. A low caste person will feel empowered when he or she is given a say in the fair hearing in a public meeting. और उस पब्लिक मीटिंग में जब मेल या फीमेल हर तरीके के लोग हों, हर वर्ग के लोग हों, और उसमें अगर यदि उस इंसान को फेयरली सुना जाए तो वो खुद को सोशली एम्पावर्ड फील करेगा। एक विमेन जो कि एक कंजर्वेटिव हाउस होल्ड से, उसको यदि घर के कामों के अलावा बाहर जाने का बिना रोक टोक के मौका मिलेगा तो वो खुद को सोशली एम्पावर्ड जो है फील करेंगी। अब एक ट्रांसजेंडर कम्युनिटी में से अगर किसी को एम्प्लॉयमेंट की अपॉर्चुनिटी दे दी जाए, एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे दी जाए, तो वो खुद को एम्पावर्ड फील करे। आई रिमेंबर टुडे ऑल्सो when Kochi Metro was started, many of the transgender communities, from many people from the transgender community were given jobs in that metro rail. उस मेट्रो में इनको जो है एम्प्लॉयमेंट दिया गया। अब बात आती है क्या जरूरत है सोशल एम्पावरमेंट। सोशल एम्पावरमेंट की जरूरत इसलिए है क्योंकि सोशल एम्पावरमेंट से ही एक इंसान एक राइट जॉब पर आता है, अपने सही स्थान पर आता है, और जब वो अपने सही स्थान पर आ गया तो वो अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट और अंडर एम्प्लॉयमेंट की प्रॉब्लम दूर हो जाएगी। Social empowerment leads to a decrease in social violence, which is engineered against the deprived sections of the society. If one person who is empowered socially, that person will know his rights, that persons will know his duties. So when a person is knowing about his rights, when a person is knowing about the duty they serve, there will be decrease in the social violence. Social empowerment is also advantageous in the case of corruption, as people tend to understand the exclusive class, or the nature of the corruption. They restrain from giving any kind of bribe and will ultimately reduce the corruption. Who are the victims of corruption? Majorly the socially unempowered groups, socially weaker section of the society. Social empowerment is one approach which is to reduce poverty. As I already said कि अगर आपको सोसाइटी टॉपिक में एक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने के लिए कुछ चाहिए, तो बेसिकली अगर आप एक प्रॉब्लम को टैकल करेंगे, बाकी की प्रॉब्लम्स खुद ब खुद साथ के साथ टैकल होंगी। दे टेंड टू यूज द नॉलेज टू द राइट डायरेक्शन। जब पॉवर्टी दूर हो जाएगी, पीपल एम्पावर हो जाएंगे, तो उनकी सोच राइट डायरेक्शन में जाएगी, एंड सम हाउ विच विल रिड्यूस द पॉवर्टी विच इज सो इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर नेशनल ग्रोथ अदरवाइज। The main advantage of empowerment is that there will be overall and inclusive development of the society. The money that people earn does not go only to help them, but it also goes to the national development. It helps to develop the society as a whole. So the income is not going only to the persons or to their families or to their households. It is going to build up a strong nation. It is going into the development of the society as a whole. So, because of these factors are not limited. There could be many more. So there is a need of social empowerment in the society. अब बात आती है कि हमें एम्पावर करना किसको है। हमें एम्पावर करना है सोशली डिसएडवांटेज्ड ग्रुप्स को, वो वाले वर्ग जिनके साथ ज्यादतियां हो रही हैं, जिनके साथ ज्यादतियां चलती आ रही हैं। बेसिकली एम्पावरमेंट तो इन्हीं को चाहिए जो पहले से ताकतवर है, उसको और एम्पावर करके क्या करेंगे। देयर आर शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स, women's, scheduled caste, minorities, rural population, senior citizens, persons with disabilities। तो बेसिकली ये 7 कैटेगरीज जो हैं, ये 7 ग्रुप्स जो हैं, many times they are seen as a victim of exploitation by the society. They are exploited in many terms। तो बेसिकली अगर शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स की बात करूं, the scheduled tribes are notified in 30 states and UTs. The number of the individual ethnic groups in the scheduled tribes, you can say, is 705 currently. The tribal population of the country as per 2011 census is constituting 8.6% of the total population, approximately 45 crores. However, 89.9% of them, पूरे पॉपुलेशन में से इतना हिस्सा मान लीजिए शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स का, और इनमें से मेजर हिस्सा 89.9% हिस्सा जो है, दे लिव इन रूरल एरियाज, और उनमें से भी 1.57% इतू सा, they belong to primitive tribal groups. The scheduled tribe population represent a heterogeneous character, or they are heterogeneous groups. They are scattered in the different regions of India. The differences are noticed in language, the differences noticed in culture, the differences noticed in their practices. The difference can be there in socio-economic status and in the pattern of livelihood. More than though the high of the ST population is concentrated in only the 7 states. Already we have read this in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Gujarat, Jharkhand, and Chhattisgarh. Or there is no ST population in 3 states: Delhi, NCR, Punjab, and Haryana, and 2 UTs, Puducherry and Chandigarh. क्योंकि यहाँ कोई भी शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब नहीं है। 2011 सेंसस शो करता है इनके पास बेसिक एमिनिटीज भी नहीं है। रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी के लिए इनके पास बेसिक अमेनिटीज भी नहीं है। बेसिक अमेनिटीज में they don't even have access to the tap water, they don't have access to sanitation facilities, they don't have access to the drainage facilities, they don't have clean drinking or water, they don't have clean cooking fuel, and much lower among the tribal areas, tribal groups. The essential characteristic of a tribal community could be, कौन कौन एसेंशियल ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी में आएगा, उसका एसेंशियल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक क्या होता है, ये एक इनमें प्रिमिटिव ट्रेट्स होते हैं। सबसे पहले इनका जियोग्राफिकल आइसोलेशन होता है, इनका डिस्टिंक्ट कल्चर होता है, दे आर सोशली एंड इकोनॉमिकली बैकवर्ड, दे आर शाई ऑफ कॉन्टैक्ट विद द कम्युनिटी एट अ लार्ज। Tribal communities live in various ecological and geoclimatic conditions. Tribal groups at different stage of social, economic and educational development, इनका सबका अलग अलग है। ऐसा नहीं कह सकते कि कौन सा ट्राइबल ग्रुप मोर एजुकेटेड है, कौन कम है, ये टोटल के ऊपर कुछ ऐसा नहीं कह सकते। फिर बात करें पीवीटीजीज, प्रिमिटिव ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स, ये मोस्टली होमोजीनियस नेचर के होते हैं। दे आर स्टेगनेंट और देयर पॉपुलेशन इज डिक्लाइनिंग। फिर दे आर रिलेटिवली physically isolated, they are extremely having low literacy level, there is slower rate of change, there is subsistence level of economy. अब ट्राइबल एजुकेशन की अगर बात करें तो उसका स्टेटस क्या है। इनमें लिटरेसी रेट जो है एसटीज में 59% है, बल्कि नेशनल एवरेज जो है वो 73% है। लिटरेसी लेवल अमंग एसटी is in man is more than women, that is 68.5% in man. अब बात करें कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन कौन कौन सी हैं। आर्टिकल 29 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, रिमेंबर दिस आर्टिकल, it protects the interest of the minorities by making provisions that any citizen, section of citizen living in distinct language, culture, script have the right to conserve the same. फिर आर्टिकल 46 हमारे पास आता है, डीपीएसपी है, द स्टेट शैल प्रोवाइड विद स्पेशल केयर एजुकेशनल एंड इकोनॉमिक इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द वीकर सेक्शन को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए, एंड पर्टिकुलर ऑफ द शेड्यूल कास्ट एंड शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब। आर्टिकल 275 एक that provides grant and aids for the state having scheduled tribes covered under the fifth and sixth schedule of the constitution। फिर आर्टिकल 350 ए states that the state shall promote adequate facilities, it shall provide adequate facilities for the for the instructions in mother tongue at the प्री प्राइमरी और प्राइमरी स्टेज ऑफ एजुकेशन। फिर फिफ्थ शेड्यूल हमारा इसके साथ डील करता है, आर्टिकल 244 एक है, वो कहता है कि इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन डिफाइन करता है शेड्यूल एरियाज में एज द एरियाज डिफाइंड बाय द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया एंड आर मेंशन्ड इन द फिफ्थ शेड्यूल। सिक्स्थ शेड्यूल जो है वो भी इनसे बात करता है, आर्टिकल 244 जो है असम, मेघालय, त्रिपुरा और मिजोरम की बात करता है। इसके बाद लेजिस्लेटिव प्रोविजंस जो हैं वो हमारे देश में कुछ लॉ बनाए गए हैं। फॉर एग्जांपल द शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब एंड अदर ट्रेडिशनल फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट जो है ये आया 2006 में। इट हैज़ अ स्पेशल सेक्शन रिगार्डिंग द पीवीटीजेस 75 कहते हैं, एंड द एक्ट रिकॉग्नाइजेज द फॉरेस्ट एंड हैबिटेट राइट्स ऑफ द primitive tribal groups। प्रोविजन ऑफ द पंचायत एक्सटेंशन टू द शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज एक्ट आ गया। इसमें शेड्यूल्ड एरिया ऑफ इंडिया अंडर द प्रिव्यू ऑफ द नेशनल फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ पंचायत लाया गया। अंडमान एंड निकोबार प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एब्रोजिनल ट्राइब्स रेगुलेशन 1956 की हैं। फॉरेनर्स रिस्ट्रिक्टेड एरिया ऑर्डर 1963 का है। अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एब्रोगेटेड एब्रोजिनल ट्राइब्स रेगुलेशन 1956 की। अगस्त 2018 में बिड टू प्रमोट टूरिज्म और इनकरेज करने के लिए, इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स ने एक्सक्लूड कर दिए 30 आइलैंड्स फ्रॉम अंडमान एंड निकोबार फ्रॉम दी RAP, जिसको हम रिस्ट्रिक्टेड एरिया परमिट रेजाइम कहते हैं, मॉडिफाइड अंडर दी विच वर मॉडिफाइड अंडर you can say just wait, yes, which were modified under the foreigners restricted area order that of 1963। अब प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स ऑफिस ने कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करी थी हाई लेवल कमेटी। प्रोफेसर वर्जिनिस साक्सा द कमेटी के चेयरमैन थे उस टाइम पे, और कुछ रिकमेंडेशंस मंगाई गई थी। वो रिकमेंडेशन थी इन सबको इंक्रीज टू इंक्रीज एंड स्ट्रेंथन द पावर ऑफ द ग्राम सभा फॉर लैंड एक्विजिशन, माइनिंग राइट्स के लिए, नो टू लार्ज डैम्स वर सेड, जुडिशियल कमीशन ऑन नक्सल ऑफिस ऑफेंसेस जो थे ये बनाने का रिकमेंडेशन दिया था। अब बात आती है इन ट्राइब्स द्वारा प्रॉब्लम्स क्या क्या फेस करी जाती हैं। they are having problem related to the forest. Their livelihood of the tribals are mainly dependent on the forest. They enjoy their traditional rights of hunting, gathering, shifting cultivation, but because of the modern governance, in the name of forest protection, they stopped all the movement of these STs in the areas. Further, the lands are taken by the various government agencies and private sector for development activities. Poverty and exploitation of the scheduled tribes is there. They are pushed to spiral of poverty. They became bonded laborers from time to time, and 52% of STs belong to the category of BPL. Below, they are below poverty line. 54% of them have no access to economic assets. There is very low literacy rate in the STs. Literacy among the tribes of the northeastern and island region is relatively higher, but despite the high dropout rate and infant mortality rate, it is a big problem. They are facing health issues, they are having health problems like anemia, malaria, gastrointestinal diseases, and they are having deficiency and some skin disorders, and because of poverty or lack of drinking safe and clean drinking water, because of poor hygiene, because of bad sanitation, lack of health services, they are deprived of good health. Next is in relation to agriculture. The contributing factors such that such an dependency on agriculture, natural calamity, crop failure as their reduced access to land and lack of employment. These are the factors that are making these groups vulnerable. Unemployment is there in scheduled tribals of the island region have face more problem of unemployment, which ultimately result into forced migration, exploitation, and displacement due to the industrialization. They lose command on the resources and are unable to cope with the new pattern of the work and resources for earning their livelihood. There is a lack of backline survey. For example, these groups are mostly seen not included in these surveys, which hinder the effective implementation of the policies. The list we have, the surveys, the data we have is outdated. It is not updated. So there is more dependency on the minor forest produce by them. There is high wastage due to the limited value addition. There is low level of technology. They are not having access to the technology. They are using outdated technology and are still practicing shifting cultivation. They are losing their identity. They are increasingly getting assimilated into the non-tribal population, by which they are losing their tribal culture, their tribal social institutions, their tribal languages. So they are vulnerable they are in a vulnerable stage. And the tribes of Andaman and Nicobar, the Fringal tribal communities have been facing they have been facing of their problems with the ecosystem by outsiders. The outside influences are they are just trespassing into their land use pattern, use of sea, and overall their culture. So by biodiversity leading to the material and non-material changes. So what are the steps that are taken by the government to control this? There is one Dhan scheme. Under the scheme, 10 self-help groups of 30 tribal populations will are to be constituted. Tribal people will be given the working capital to add value to their products. And then next was One Dhan Vikas Kendra is a multi-purpose establishment for providing skill upgradation to these groups. They are provided concessions for the representation in the services. There are age limit. There is limit and age limit reduction, etc. The fifth schedule of the Constitution provides for the Tribal Advisory Council to look into the matters of people. Tribal and Harijan research institutes are set up. The Stand Up India scheme is there. The next is Commissioner for Scheduled Caste, which looks into the matters of concern and investigates all the matters and report to the presidents. Now, what needs to be done as to the region-specific approach is to be opted, and the development in fisheries and tourism industry is co-extensive. There is need of awareness in the generation. There is need for more access to the forest products. to promote the sustainable economic activities, development of cottage industries, then next plantation crops, etc. could be there. To protect the cultural heritage, the entry Andaman and Nicobar Tribal Research and Training Institute has been set up with an objective for formation of policies for tribal integration and protection of primitive tribal groups. Then the next vulnerable section, you can say, is the women in India. Women in India, as we have done in the previous lectures. In this lecture, I will be using only the terms. I will not be explaining much in detail the meaning of the terms. I'll be using the terms only as we have already done in a fair amount of detail the meaning of each and every term in relation to this topic. Women empowerment has become a subject matter all around the world in the past few decades. Many international organizations and agencies, including the United Nations, they have emphasized on the gender equality as an important issue. It was held that women cannot wait for any further to claim their equality in social, economic, and political space. The essence of equality has very wide benefit that the whole nation can enjoy. It is said that the empowering women is not only morally essential, it is not only morally essential, but also economically important for the country. Out of the total population in India, women contribute 48.37. So almost about half of the shares of the total population in India is of the women, almost around half. So what are the problems that are faced by that is the domestic violence, it could be the dowry death. So we have already done what is a dowry death. It is when a woman is murdered or driven to suicide by continuous harassment and torture by the husband or his near relatives. In relation to the demand of dowry, it is called dowry death within the 7 years of marriage. And most of the women face most of the risk from their families. And largest share, 36% of all the cases, were under cruelty by the husband or the relatives. There is pink colorization of jobs. The women is supposed to have only the jobs which are suitable. For example, lecturer, babysitting, household work, etc. So these are the jobs like teachers and nurses or receptionist, which supposed to be done by the women only. We can't just suppose or imagine women driving a school bus. So how it will look, just imagine a woman driving a school bus. Nothing awkward in this and nothing so special. But why we just can't think of it? Why we just suppose only uncle is driving a school bus? Why women can't drive school bus? So because of this, there is being colorization of job. Women are supposed to do some particular work only. They are not supposed to be on the other work. There is early marriage in the Indian Orthodox, or I will say the conventional thoughts of the family or society. Women are married mostly in the age of 18 to 21 years in India, because of which they are not having opportunities. जब तक वो चार बच्चे पैदा कर देती हैं, तीन बच्चे पैदा कर देती हैं, और मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा कि वो पैदा कर देती हैं, ये उनसे करवाए जाते हैं, तो उस टाइम तक उनको समझ आती है कि ज़िंदगी है क्या. They are not having any option to just erase the past. They are not having any opportunity. So because of the early marriage, the problem they face, girl child is denied timely intervention. There is malnutrition and anemia in the which is among Indian girls is one of the highest in the world. Education is a lack of education is there. Women is denied higher education because the Indian society, as per the Indian conventional society, some of the people think that women will not earn a bread to the family. जो काम करेगा लड़का करेगा, और लड़का ही हमें पेरेंट्स को फ्यूचर में ध्यान रखेगा. लड़की ने तो अपने घर में चले जाना है, उसकी शादी हो जाएगी, वो अपने घर में चले जाएगी, वो हमें क्या ला के देगी. इस वजह से लड़की को पढ़ाया नहीं जाता. लड़की के साथ इसलिए अन्याय हो रहा है. There is lack of political participation of women. There is problem of sarpanch patis. There is problem of patriarchal society. There is man-dominated society. One sex is given preferential concern over the other, and there is problem of unemployment. There is a gap in digital literacy. There is a, if you say, many of the women in India, only 29% of the women are internet users out of the total. So, women using the internet is 12% less than the there is a gap in digital literacy. The data is mixed. There is 12% less women who use internet than men, and there are only 29% females who participate in the digital literacy. So there are some recent changes which are done in the DV Act, you can say Domestic Violence Act, which are for the beneficial or for the betterment of the women. Government has taken many initiatives to tackle with the gender-related issues. For example, Suvidha, a Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizers, that has introduced 100% biodegradable sanitary napkins. Project Stree Swabhiman, a sustainable model for providing adolescent girls and women across affordable sanitary napkins. And Nari portal is their governance, which national e-governance plan को ये काम देता है. ई संवाद पोर्टल मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ वुमेन एंड चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट द्वारा बनाया गया. सो बेसिकली ये चीज़ें करी गई. देर आर मेनी अदर इश्यूज ऑल्सो. There are many other issues also, which include cyber crimes in relation to women, which could be in the form of harassment via emails, cyber stalking, cyber spoofing, and dissemination of obscene material, email spoofing, etc. Women's safety is at stake, and which involves various dimension. Women is sexually harassed at the workplace, rape, martial rape, dowry, etc. acts are there. So the Sexual Harassment Act is deterrent to women's freedom and preparedness, which the uh, it happens for the perpetuates the nation that women are the weaker and sixth. So sexual harassment, as I mean to say, just for example, because of the sex, women are considered to be weaker. So sexual harassment of women at workplace, prevention and prohibition and redressal act 2013 जो है वो इम्प्लीमेंट किया गया था. But there are some issues in the implementation as the courts are already overburdened with the cases. The cases remain pending in the court for a long time, and which are enhancing the sufferings of the victim. Then next is a suggestion for the better implementation, which we can say Ministry of Women and Child Development can do a lot in this thing. National Commission for Women can do a lot. Programs on cyber crime investigation could be there. Training in imported and police officers and judicial officers could be there for the empowerment of women. प्रधानमंत्री मातृ वंदना योजना बहुत कुछ कर सकती है. नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी एक्ट 2013, वीकली आयरन एंड फॉलिक एसिड सप्लीमेंटेशन प्रोग्राम जो है to meet the challenge of high prevalence of incidence of anemia amongst the girl childs could be tackled. The next is about the scheduled caste. We can say the scheduled castes. So the scheduled caste are those caste races in the country who suffer from extreme social, educational, and economic backwardness because of the account of lack of infrastructure, geographical isolation. They are considered to be lower classes. They are considered to be inferior to the other caste. So Article 341, one of the Constitution provides that the President of India, after consultation with the governor, may specify the caste to be the scheduled caste. There are many problems which are faced by the scheduled caste, they are denied basic amenities such as clean drinking water, entering into temples, basic transport, or otherwise. They are denied the human rights. For example, they are forced to do manual scavenging, bonded labors. They are disallowed the education of scheduled caste. They are being treated discriminately in the educational institutions. They are still considered as the untouchables. गांधी जी इनको हरिजन बोला करते थे और there are many initiatives which are taken for the development of the scheduled caste. There is educational empowerment, there is economic empowerment. For educational empowerment, scholarships are announced. Scholarships in the form of checks are given to the scheduled caste so that they can raise their level of education. National Scheduled Caste Finance and Development Corporation is set up. National Safai Karamchari Finance and Development Corporation is set up. Venture Capital Fund and for Scheduled Caste is there. The Startup Stand Up India scheme is there that provides a loan to people. Social empowerment. The Protection of the Civil Rights Act 1955 in the pursuance of Article 17 has given the untouchability as offense, and Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act is there 1989 का. देन नेक्स्ट वी कैन से अबाउट द माइनॉरिटीज. माइनॉरिटीज वो पीपल होते हैं जो कम संख्या में हैं. किसी भी लॉ में यहाँ या हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में माइनॉरिटी वर्ड को डिफाइन नहीं करा गया, पर हमारे कुछ आर्टिकल्स हैं जिससे हम इस वर्ड का मीनिंग जो है वो जज कर सकते हैं. हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में आर्टिकल 29 जो है वो कहता है ग्रुप ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सेज दैट आर्टिकल अंडर आर्टिकल 29 that any group living within the jurisdiction of India is entitled to preserve, prevent, promote their own language, script, or literature or culture. Article 36 also states that a minority group, whether based on the religious or linguistic lines. So there are two types of minorities on the basis of religion, on the basis of language. They have the right to establish the administration and administer their educational institutions of their own choice. Now, the minorities in India, the word minority mentioned in Article 29, Article 30, Article 350A, Article 350B, they recognizes minorities based on religion and language. As per the Section 2C of the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992, minority means a community notified as such by the central government. There are many Supreme Court judgments which says who is a minority. It says that the minority is not जो एक सिर्फ एक region में हो. It is in a state as a whole. So there are many problems which are faced by the minority. The minority is losing confidence over the system because of the problems of identity. The difference in the socio-cultural pattern, history, and background. There is problem of adjustment. The problem of security is there. The problem of lack of representation in the civil services is there. The problem of separatism is there. इनको अलग दरकिनार कर दिया जाता है. The problem in education and employment among minorities is there. The steps are taken by the government. For example, the Prime Minister's new 15-point agenda plan जो आया था, the Ustad, the scheme aims of upgrading skills of training the traditional ancestral acts crafts of the minorities. हमारी धरोहर स्कीम आई थी, स्ट्रेंथनिंग ऑफ द स्टेट वर्क बोर्ड, नई रोशनी नाम की स्कीम जो है वो इनके लिए लाई गई. देन नेक्स्ट इज अबाउट रूरल पॉपुलेशन, या फिर देहाती जनसंख्या जिसको हम बोलते हैं, जो रूरल एरिया में रहते हैं. 65% ऑफ द इंडियन पॉपुलेशन लिव इन दी रूरल एरियाज. ये ऐसे एरियाज में रहते हैं जहां इनको बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करनी पड़ती हैं. इकोनॉमिक प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं, नेचुरल कैटास्ट्रॉफ्स आते हैं, ड्रॉट्स आते हैं, फ्लड्स आते हैं, जो कि इनके बेसिक हैबिटेट को ख़राब कर देते हैं. देर इज सॉइल डिग्रेडेशन, देर इज लैक ऑफ मैकेनाइजेशन इन द रूरल एरियाज, देर इज मानसून फेलियर, जिस वजह से एग्रीकल्चर पे डिपेंडेंट पॉपुलेशन बहुत कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस फेस करती है. देर आर इनएडिक्वेट स्टोरेज फैसिलिटीज. There is high illiteracy rate. There is inadequate infrastructure in the rural areas. There is unskilled labor in the rural area. There is gender gap. The women education is very poor. The prevalence of child marriage is there in rural areas. The female feticide is there. High unemployment rate is there. You can say malnutrition is there. poor healthcare facilities are there, they have to move to the cities or town nearby for approaching the medical facilities. There is the negligible investment in healthcare facilities in the rural areas. अब सरकार ने बहुत सारी चीज़ें करी हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल जवाहर ग्राम समृद्धि योजना आई थी, प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना है, इंटीग्रेटेड रूरल डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम है, नेशनल रूरल एम्प्लॉयमेंट गारंटी प्लान है। लाइकवाइज ये सभी एम्ड है कि रूरल एरिया की डेवलपमेंट हो सके। नेक्स्ट इज अबाउट द सीनियर सिटीजन। सीनियर सिटीजन्स आर कंसिडर्ड टू बी मोर देन 60। देयर इज नो एग्जैक्ट डेफिनेशन। 2011 सेंसस कहता है लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी हमारे इंडिया में 42 ईयर्स से 65 ईयर्स जो है वो पहुंच गई है। और जो बुजुर्ग लोग हैं हमारी कंट्री में वो लगभग हमारे इंडिया में हमारे इंडिया में बहुत इनकी पॉपुलेशन आने वाले टाइम में बढ़ जाएगी, क्योंकि लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी जो है वो बढ़ गई है। द परसेंटेज ऑफ सीनियर सिटीजन क्लैरिफाइड दैट दी एज दी uh, population is growing, it would be 19% in 2050. There are many challenges in senior citizens also. They face the problem of digital illiteracy. They are not digitally aware of everything. There is ruralization of elderly. जितना लोग बुजुर्ग हो जाते हैं वो रूरल एरियाज की तरफ मूव करते हैं. There is a problem of migration and all the impacts related to migration are there. There is implementation of existing policies which could be seen as social pensions, old age pensions, national policy on older persons 1999 की लागू करी जा रही है। पर अभी एक कॉम्प्रीहेंसिव लॉ लाना चाहिए इनकी सिक्योरिटी के लिए। हमें जनरेशन को अवेयर करने की ज़रूरत है इनके लिए। तो इस तरीके से इनको जो है सिक्योरिटी प्रदान करी जा सकती है। नेक्स्ट इज अबाउट द पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज। सो हमारे पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज जो हैं द एक्सपीरियंस स्टिग्मा in the they are facing compromised dignity in their daily life. 2011 सेंसस कहता है कि 68 करोड़ लोग इंडिया में जो है ये ग्रुप से हैं और पूरे विश्व में ये 15%। मेन आर विद डिसेबिलिटीज जो है 56%, विमेन 44%। हमारे यहाँ आर्टिकल 41 ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है मैंडेट करता है स्टेट को इफेक्टिव प्रोविजन फॉर द सिक्योरिंग द राइट्स ऑफ द एजुकेशन वर्क एंड पब्लिक असिस्टेंस फॉर द पीपल अफेक्टेड बाय डिसेबिलिटी विद इन द कंस्ट्रेंट्स ऑफ द इकोनॉमिक कैपेसिटी एंड लेवल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट एंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इन शेड्यूल्ड ऑफ द सब्जेक्ट lays down the direct responsibility for the empowerment of the persons with disability on the government. Now, what are the problems faced by the persons with disabilities? This is a problem of isolation. इनको दरकिनारे कर दिया जाता है. They are discriminated. They are having lack of infrastructure facilities. For example, if you go to बस, आप तो सीढ़ी चढ़ के बस के ऊपर चढ़ जाएंगे, पर एक डिसेबल्ड इंसान उस सीढ़ी को किस तरीके से चढ़ पाएगा? देयर आर लो फ्लोर बसेस, yes, but the number of these buses is very less. There is limited monitoring capacity. The Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities is the nodal department for reviewing the working, but the working is not sufficient, or there is limited monitoring of the policies. There are many steps taken by the government to upraise the level or to safeguard them. That is Right to Person with Disabilities Act 2016. ये एक प्रोविजंस इस एक्ट में लाई गई थी जिसमें टाइप ऑफ डिसेबिलिटी, बेंचमार्क डिसेबिलिटी, चाइल्ड्स विद बेंचमार्क डिसेबिलिटीज चीज़ें बताई गई हैं और स्पेशल कोड्स इनके लिए सेटअप करी गई हैं। इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ करेगी इनकी मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस एंड एम्पावरमेंट। प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स एक्सेसिबल इंडिया कैंपेन जो है वो लॉन्च करी गई थी गवर्नमेंट और नॉन गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे, ताकि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फैसिलिटीज इनके लिए डेवलप करी जा सके। रिसेंटली मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स एंड नेशनल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट गाइडलाइंस ऑन डिसेबिलिटी इंक्लूसिव डिजास्टर रिस्क रिडक्शन strives to reduce the impact of disasters on affected communities by mitigating and reducing the risk. तो इस तरीके से there is accessible India campaign. Aim of the campaign was to make a better, free and conducive environment for the Divyangjans. सो लाइकवाइज ये सब चीज़ें इनकी प्रॉब्लम्स दूर करने के लिए देर इज इंस्टीट्यूशनल फॉर्म्स आर रिक्वायर्ड। इंस्टीट्यूशनल फॉर्म्स आएंगे, देर इज अ नीड टू स्ट्रेंथन द फाइनेंशियल एंड ह्यूमन रिसोर्स कैपेसिटी ऑफ द सेंट्रल एंड स्टेट commissions. So, by improving the access to, you can say, assistive technologies for the person with disabilities, there is need through strengthening through education. So, recently, the International Day of the Person with Disabilities was celebrated on 3rd of December 2019. So, we can sum up with the conclusion that through education, through economic opportunities, through increased social security schemes, the problem could be solved. If we look on the past, the UPSC is asking question consecutively from this topic every year. Why are the question from 2016 is there? Why are the tribal in India referred to as the scheduled tribes? Indicate the major provision of the Constitution of India for their upliftment. So again, बहुत ही आसान, बहुत ही सिंपल क्वेश्चन, हमें अच्छे से ये अटेम्प्ट करने में आसानी होगी. 2017, what are the two major legal initiatives taken by the state since independence addressing the discrimination against scheduled tribes? सो अगेन अ वेरी सिंपल क्रिस्प एंड क्लियर क्वेश्चन. अगेन इस टॉपिक में आपको कंसेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी ही चाहिए. आपको कोई हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल फॉलो नहीं करना है, आपको कोई बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें अपने ध्यान में नहीं रखनी है. बस आपको कंसेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी चाहिए. यू कैन फ्रेम इजीली योर आंसर अकॉर्डिंगली. So, this was all for today. I hope all of you have enjoyed the series and आपको ये लेक्चर अच्छे लग रहे होंगे. आप अच्छे से इन लेक्चर्स को देख के अपनी तैयारी कर रहे होंगे. अगले लेक्चर में हम सोसाइटी टॉपिक को ख़त्म करने वाले हैं. So, I hope all of you have enjoyed. This was all for today. Thank you. Have a nice day.